Our subject this morning, radiant health through yoga. Radiant health through yoga. But our master qualified that statement by saying that radiant health means health of the body, efficiency of the mind, and above all, the love of the one Father in your soul. That's radiant health. Many times we see people who are very healthy physically, and they have big muscles, but you look at their faces, there's something missing. Perhaps the ego stands out. Perhaps behind the outward calm there is a restlessness of the mind. And in a good many, the peace of the soul does not shine through. So remember, radiant health means not only health of the body, but health of the mind, and above all, the soul must feel the love of God flowing through it. Then you have radiant health. Now, yoga means union. Union with what? Union with the one eternal Father. Now, if yoga means union with God, which it does, then it will give radiant health. It is something to be most desired. Because if this system of yoga, which is age-old, having been handed down throughout the ages in India, if that will unite us with God, it surely is something worthwhile, is it not? And I have a reference I'd like to read to you, a quotation from the autobiography written by our Master, in which we read these words. Yoga practice is unthinkable and would also be ineffectual without the concepts upon which yoga is based. It combines the bodily and spiritual with each other in an extraordinarily complete way. So you can see the key to the success of yoga in giving radiant health lies in the fact that it combines the physical with the spiritual. Then it goes on to say, in the East, where these ideas were practiced and have been developed, and where for several thousand years an unbroken tradition has created the necessary spiritual foundations, yoga is, as I can readily believe, the perfect and appropriate method of fusing the body and the mind together so that they form a unity which is scarcely to be questioned. This unity creates a psychological disposition which makes possible intuitions that transcend waking consciousness. So that's what yoga does. It does not just develop the bodily consciousness as outward consciousness. It develops because it is associated and connected deeply and thoroughly and completely with the spiritual part of us. It helps us to transcend this bodily consciousness and know that we are not just this body, but the soul, which is the temple of God. Now, a few pertinent facts which we must not forget. It is a known fact, and I know you all will agree, that the body, conditions of the body, no doubt affect conditions of the mind. Like the thorn in the flesh. No matter what you're doing, that thing is poking you. Poking you, and naturally it has an effect upon your mind. Likewise, if you disobey the health laws and eat certain foods which produce abdominal distress, and you wonder why you can't sleep at night. Why? Because the mind is continually being affected and reminded that there's something going on down there. And so you cannot sleep. These are just two simple illustrations that conditions in the body, without question of a doubt, affect the mind. And vice versa. Conditions of the mind, without question of a doubt, affect the bodily health. You take a person with a restless mind, and the body will be jittery, The functions will not function. The functions of the body, the deep vegetative functions, will not go on in a harmonious way because of this condition of the mind. The mind has a great effect upon the body. And that restlessness is carried forth and shows itself in bodily functions. We must understand and realize this. So what's the remedy? One simple remedy is change your thought. Completely change the thought. You'll be living under conditions, and everything that you do, you'll blame upon those conditions. The conditions are not the cause. It's the fact that your thought is associated with those conditions, and being associated with those conditions is running you and your body too. Change the thought sometimes, and the whole world seems wonderful, where before it seemed, as the Englishman says, rotten. So these things are notable facts. I guess the English use that word quite a bit. They must. I've heard it several times used in that connection. But anyway, change your thought. The world seems rosy, to put it in an American way. So, but the peace of the soul, the presence of God within you, flowing through you, without question of a doubt, affects both body and mind. Because when that harmony produced by God's presence within you in a conscious way flows through you, both the mind and the body, and of course the soul will express radiant health of divinity. So just one or two facts to not forget. Now let us take up first the body. The body, if we to have health of the body, we must obey the health laws. Obey the health laws. Be moderate in things. Be moderate. Your food must be correct, vital, nourishing. We will not go into that. And also be temperate in things. That is, have self-control in your eating and in your bodily habits of health. Realize that is very important. Now, what constitutes health? That's a very important thing. What constitutes health? It is not just a body with big muscles bulging out. We had a boy at Mount Washington. He had tremendous muscles. He had so big muscles that he couldn't move even and work. These big muscles, and this is a fact. He was useless. The muscles were big. He had developed them, but they were useless. They got in the way when John, as we call him, when he started to do anything. So let us understand that that does not constitute health. I remember in 1918 we had a bad influenza epidemic. Perhaps some of you remember it. And I noticed especially then the people that escaped that epidemic were not necessarily the people with big and healthy bodies and muscles. They sometimes were the thin but healthy people in a different way. Their health was not just confined to the physical tissue, but it was confined to the internal organs and the different internal systems. So, the answer to what constitutes health is this. Health constitutes a harmonious flow of life force. There must be a harmonious flow of life force not only through the muscles and physical tissues, outward physical tissues, but through the internal organs. This is very important. That life force must flow through the internal organs. And that means it must flow through the circulatory system, the respiratory system, the excretory system. They must be healthy. So that, you see, changes the picture. From the ordinary conception of a healthy body with the big muscles and even posture, but the internal organs have to be nourished and exercised by life force. That will give you perfect, radiant, bodily health. Now, the Master's regeneration exercises are very important because they do not just exercise the muscles of the body. They do not just send the life force through the muscles of the body by will, but they send the life force through the internal organs by will, and thereby the internal organs and the systems which they represent are functioning in a harmonious way. So that is what good bodily health means. It means that the life force must flow through all tissue, not just through the muscular tissue. Radiant physical health means that you have control of the life force and that you convert the oxygen in the air, which we do in the regeneration exercises of our Master incorporated in the self-realization teachings. We take in lots of air in our exercises. For what purpose? To convert that oxygen into life force. Life force is the sustaining element in health. Life force. And so the oxygen is converted into life force, and that is utilized by will to exercise the physical and the mental and the spiritual tissue, if we can call it that. Realize that one thing. If you want bodily health, utilize the life force within you. Convert the oxygen. Convert the food. Everything is converted finally into life force. Life force is that of which we read in the Bible, thou shalt not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth from the mouth of God. Word is vibration, and vibration in us. The sustaining and health-giving vibration is the cosmic energy of God known as life force. Remember that for radiant physical health. Also, in passing, there are asanas which are utilized in the practice of yoga. Different asanas are very wonderful because they have an effect upon the body whereby this life force is stimulated to go in a certain way, which is conducive to good health of the body. They are called, some of those asanas are known as mudras. Mudras are very important. There is one that comes to my mind that stimulates the medulla center. It is a posture plus certain movements that stimulates the medulla center, and that's the center through which the great cosmic energy of God comes into us and is stored in us and is exercised through the various tissues of the body. These different mudras are very important because they utilize movement plus the direction of life force through those movements. That's very important. Now let us take up the mind. Control the waves of the mind. Control the waves of the mind. Remember, as I have said, the mind has a great effect upon the body, which I'll shortly point out. Control the waves of the mind. How? By the exercise of your will. You can control your concentration, and by that concentration, you can control the waves of the mind. Now, the highest technique of concentration of self-realization fellowship yoga is the greatest way to one point the mind and attain concentration. If you have concentration and the mind is rushing here and there, and in turn affecting your body, if you're going to say stop and do it, your body will benefit immediately. But if it keeps on racing and rushing here and hither and yonder, the body has to suffer. And so this highest technique of concentration, of self-realization fellowship yoga, is a most wonderful thing to help you improve your concentration. Concentration is very important because in directing the application of anything in this life, especially life force, you'll need concentration. Concentration is very important. Now the second thing, keep the thought pattern in your mind right. Keep the thought pattern in your mind right. Because if that thought pattern is right, as I have pointed out, mind has a great effect upon the body. That will influence your bodily health more than you can imagine. Keep the thought pattern in your mind right. There is an effect upon your thought because it is your thought that has made and sustains your body. You cannot see the connection, but this is a psychological and physiological fact. The thought, whether it is God's thought or whatever it is, has made your body, and thought will sustain your body. Thought is a very important factor in radiant health. Keep the thought pattern right. Keep it as it should be. And remember, thought can make the somatic cells of your body, which are simply lazy cells, doing nothing. Thought, if the pattern is right, it can make those cells become active, and they can carry on the functions of your body in the right way. Understand that. That thought can change the cells of your body. And especially if the higher force is used, as Master once told me, when you meditate and connect yourself with the presence of God, all the cells in the body vibrate differently. They vibrate with His great eternal presence. These are facts. So we must keep the thought pattern right. And another thing, last thing about the mind, is the effect of will. If you keep the thought pattern right, and then if the will is strong, it'll carry that pattern throughout your body and give you bodily health. And so the last point in dealing with the mind in radiant health is that your will must be coupled with the will of God within you. And then when you do that, as they say in ordinary Americanism, something's got to give, and something's going to give if you couple your will with God's will. And when you send the energy through the muscle, it isn't just haphazardly, but you send it with the power of God in you. Then you get results. So the third and important point in talking about the will, the connection, the mind in radiant health is keep the pattern right, but couple your will with God's will, that pattern is carried out with its effect upon your body and upon your mind. Then we come to the last point, which is, if we can call it, soul health. Soul health, I guess you can call it that. Soul health. Now, one of the techniques of yoga, self-realization fellowship yoga, is the highest technique of meditation. Not concentration this time. You have to have the concentration before you can apply that concentration on God, which meditation means. You take that concentration which you have gathered from your attention being distributed throughout the body in an inharmonious way, and you gather it in one point, and you say, "Here, God, here it is," and you mean it. Now that's real meditation. And you know what God is. God is the presence of the holy vibration within you. God is His great cosmic sound, His light at this point, and above all, His feeling of love in your heart. That's the presence of God within you. But if you just think about it, theorize about it, what good is that? But when you have your concentration gathered together, and you hear the cosmic sound, and you put it on it, and you see the light at this point, and you merge in that light, and you feel God's great solace and love throughout you, and you become one with it, that's meditation. And that's what yoga will give you if you practice yoga thoroughly and correctly, and practice a yoga that has been given by one who had realization as our beloved Master. Now another point is Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is the king of all yogas. Kriya Yoga is the king of all yogas because by the practice of it, you gather the life force in such a tangible way that you realize, finally, that you are not this body, this transient body. You are not this changeable mind, but you are the ageless, ever new, ever joyous presence of God within you, and that you are one with Him. Kriya Yoga will give you that. That's why yoga is so important, because of its spiritual connection. And the highest spiritual connection comes through the practice of Kriya Yoga. It is the fastest accelerator known to take one from outward consciousness to the presence of God within. That's what Kriya Yoga will do. So, always keep this pattern right before you. That you are not this changeable body. You're not the restless mind. But you are the ageless piece of the soul within you, the presence of God. How can you go astray? How can you have anything except Radiant health if you keep that pattern and keep at it long enough until your karma is burnt up. That's the reason of keeping the pattern right. And you realize what you truly are. I don't mean to keep a pattern of ill health there. Some people enjoy ill health. No. Keep the pattern of the presence of God within you. And therefore, the greatest factor in radiant health through yoga is the conscious contact of God and God communion. That's the greatest factor. Ordinary hatha yoga has an effect upon your mind through bodily manipulation and so forth, and likewise some effect upon the soul. But why not go to the fountainhead? And the fountainhead is the presence of God within you. That's the connection of yoga which is most valuable, is that you have conscious contact and communion with God. If you have that, then you'll be happy all the time. And even if the body is giving you trouble, what of it? God is with you. And in spite of that, you read the history of the saints, some of the saints who were suffering with incurable diseases, they were happy. Why? Because they had the conscious communion and contact with God. And realize, if you have this conscious communion with God, that you're above change. There is no death. There is no death in God's great omniscient presence. And even if you are subject to a little ill health, it is not permanent. It will pass away as the pattern is held in your mind and the presence of God flows through you. You're above that change, for in God there is no changing consciousness. It's one consciousness of peace and bliss. And if that permeates us long enough and with sufficient force, then all inharmony must pass away. Even if a little remains, we are satisfied because God is with us. And above all, by this communion, you can attain abiding faith in God. Abiding faith is the most wonderful thing. Even though you have a sick body, if you still have that abiding faith, it will be rectified. As Master tells a story in his autobiography about one saint who had a very bad condition of the body, so that it was all sores and such things that go with that degenerative disease. And the saint prayed, Father, if you just once will come into my body, I know I'll be whole. It took him a long time, I've forgotten the number of years. Finally, God came into his temple, and his body was whole. And so, our condition, of course, conditions are not as bad as that, but no matter what they are, keep that abiding faith in God. Keep contact with Him, and sooner or later, He's bound to come in and straighten things out. Keep that abiding faith. Have that steadiness which comes by being one with the Supreme One within. I will keep him in perfect peace, who never forgets me, and I never forget him, says the Lord. Because God is peace, God is bliss, God is all fulfillment. And so radiant health will come if we follow these simple things that I have said this morning from the teachings of Self-Realization Fellowship Yoga. And above all, make that contact with God and keep it. Never forget it, that conscious communion with God. And I'll close with one more reference from the Master's A.Y., in which it brings in the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the greatest references. Now, those of you perhaps who have felt, well, yoga's all right, for those who can jump around and bend and do all this, remember this reference which I am going to give you. Yoga is not to be depreciated. Yoga has a spiritual connection which we all need. And in the autobiography, we'll read this. First, let me say, radiant health, if you keep that conscious communion, will be the logical sequence for you. And so from the autobiography of a yogi, referring to the sure and methodical efficacy of yoga, Krishna praises the technological yogi in the following words. And these are the words I want to give you. Never forget them. The yogi is greater than body discipline ascetics, greater even than the followers of the path of wisdom, jnana yoga, or the path of action, karma yoga. Be thou, O Arjuna, a yogi.